Somebody just drove past you in a Cadillac Lyriq, and they paid less for it than you paid for your last Toyota Camry. Right now, across dealer lots in every state in America, EVs that cost $50, $60, even $90,000 new are sitting there quietly losing half their value, and almost nobody is buying them. Today, we are counting down 5 of them, cars the market decided to ignore, and by the end, you may be asking whether the smartest EV purchase in America is the one nobody else wants. Let us start with number 5, and it might be the most controversial car on this entire list, the Chevrolet Bolt. New models started around $29,000, but used examples from 2020 to 2022 are trading for as little as $12,000 to $18,000. In the first half of 2026, General Motors sold only about 700 of these a month, and dealers are sitting on inventory that would take nearly 4 months to clear at that pace. That is not a healthy sales chart. That is a car nobody wants. And there is a reason for that hesitation. The Bolt was hit with one of the most high-profile battery recalls in EV history, tied to fire risk. And that kind of headline sticks in people's memory long after the fix is done. GM even killed the Bolt once, brought it back with limited production, and that stop-start history has left buyers wondering if this is a car worth trusting long-term. It is the automotive equivalent of dating someone with a complicated ex. People get nervous. But here is what the fear is missing. Most of the affected Bolts on the road today have already had their battery packs replaced, with fresh 8-year, 100,000-mile warranties attached. That means for $15,000 to $18,000, you are getting a vehicle with over 240 miles of range, a simple and proven platform with no complicated air suspension or exotic high-voltage architecture to maintain, and a documented track record of running past 200,000 miles without drama. The recall panic is largely a ghost story at this point, but the discount it created is very real. Does the catch still matter? A little. Charging tops out at around 55 kilowatts, which is slow by today's standards, meaning road trips take patience. And there is lingering resale anxiety because buyers spooked by headlines might still hesitate when you go to sell. But if you are commuting, running errands, or looking for a reliable second car, and you do not care about bragging rights, the Bolt might be the best $15,000 decision in the entire EV market right now. This is the gateway bargain, the car that opens the door to everything else on this list. Now, here is the number that should stop you in your tracks. In the first quarter of 2025, Nissan sold over 4,000 Arias in the United States. 1 year later, in the first quarter of 2026, that number had collapsed to 56 units. That is a drop of over 98%, practically overnight. This is not a car people stopped liking. This is a car that got strangled by 15% import tariffs on vehicles built in Japan, combined with the loss of federal tax credits, and dealer networks that frankly did not know how to sell an EV in the first place. So what is actually sitting under that stigma? A genuinely premium interior, excellent noise isolation that puts some luxury brands to shame, and a real-world range between 216 and 304 miles depending on configuration, backed by an 8-year, 100,000-mile battery warranty. For $24,000 to $28,000, you are buying a crossover that feels like it belongs in a much higher price bracket, because 3 years ago, it was priced like one, before losing roughly 63% of its value. The catch here is orphan risk. Nissan has effectively paused this model in America, which raises real questions about long-term parts availability and dealer support 5 or 10 years down the road. Charging is also slower than newer rivals, maxing out around 130 kilowatts. If you plan to keep a car for 15 years and lean on dealer service constantly, that is worth weighing. But if you want a comfortable, quiet, well-built EV and you are comfortable being an early adopter of the secondhand kind, this is one of the strongest comfort per dollar deals on the market. And believe it or not, the next car on this list solves a completely different problem: reliability. Number 3 is the Kia Niro EV, and if you care about one thing above everything else when buying a car, dependability, pay close attention here. New pricing sat around $40,000, but used models from 2022 through 2024 are now trading for $22,000 to $30,000, with sweet spot deals often landing around $25,000 to $28,000. Kia is discontinuing the Niro EV in the United States to focus on purpose-built platforms like the EV6 and EV9, and total Niro sales across all powertrains barely cracked 31,000 units in 2025. That is a rounding error compared to competitors. Marketing dollars went elsewhere, dealer floor space went elsewhere, and the Niro EV quietly became the forgotten sibling in Kia's own lineup. The trade-off is charging speed, capped around 100 kilowatts, and an interior that is functional rather than flashy. Long-term part support is also a genuine question mark once production winds down completely. But if peace of mind matters more to you than prestige, this might be the single most boring, in the best possible way, EV purchase you could make in 2026. And speaking of boring assumptions getting shattered, wait until you see what happens with range at position number 2, because number 2 is where the market's logic really starts to fall apart, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Original pricing ranged from around $37,800 up past $52,000 for loaded trims. Used 2023 and 2024 models are now selling for $21,000 to $32,000, with typical deals around $24,000 to $28,000. Hyundai is killing the standard Ioniq 6 for the American market entirely, keeping only the high-performance N version. Sales tell the story, down 15% in 2025 to just over 10,000 units, then collapsing 75% in the first quarter of 2026 to under 900 cars sold. Part of that is tariffs on Korean-built vehicles, but a lot of it is simpler than that. Americans wanted an SUV, and Hyundai gave them a sedan. But that sedan shape is hiding something remarkable. 361 miles of EPA estimated range, more than a Tesla Model 3 long range, built on an 800-volt architecture that can charge from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes on a fast enough charger. Its aerodynamic shape with a drag coefficient of 0.21 is part of why it stretches range so efficiently. For $24,000 to $28,000, you are buying more usable range than cars costing twice as much, simply because Americans decided they did not like the silhouette. The catch is real though. Once Hyundai fully exits the standard Ioniq 6 in the States, parts and service support for non-N models could get thin. Cargo space also lags behind SUVs, and the rear visibility is famously compromised by that swoopy design. Still, if range anxiety is your biggest fear as an EV buyer, this car makes that fear almost irrelevant, for less money than nearly anything else on the market with similar numbers. Which brings us to the car that ties the entire argument together. Number 1, the vehicle that best captures everything this list has been building toward is the Cadillac Lyriq. New, this thing started at $61,795 and climbed past $90,000 in top trims. That is real luxury money. Used 2023 and 2024 models are now trading for $30,000 to $40,000, with typical deals in the $32,000 to $38,000 range. Sales dropped 26% in 2025, then fell another 46% in the fourth quarter alone, and analysts are projecting another double-digit decline in 2026. In just 3 years, these vehicles have lost around 52 to 57% of their original value, somewhere between $32,000 and $35,000 evaporating off the sticker price. That is not a typo. That is more value lost than most Americans have in their entire savings account. So here is the value shock. For $32,000 to $38,000, roughly the price of a well-equipped Honda Accord, you are getting a genuine luxury EV with a 33-inch curved display, AKG studio-grade audio, hands-free Super Cruise highway driving, premium materials throughout the cabin, and 312 miles of range. 3 years ago, this exact experience cost over $60,000. Today, the market has decided it is worth roughly half that, not because the car got worse, but because sentiment did. Now, is this a perfect car? No. GM's charging network is less developed than Tesla's supercharger system, some early builds had software glitches, and long-term projections suggest the Lyriq could lose nearly 70% of its value after 5 years, landing under $18,000. That is either terrifying or fascinating depending on how you look at it. If you are buying to flip in 3 years, this is a trap. If you are buying to actually drive and enjoy for the next 5 to 7 years, you are getting luxury features other manufacturers charge tens of thousands of dollars more for. So here is a question worth sitting with. If a car this loaded, this comfortable, and this capable can lose half its value in 3 years simply because public sentiment turned against a brand, what does that tell you about how EV pricing actually works in America? Is the market genuinely evaluating these vehicles on merit, or is it just chasing headlines, badges, and whatever brand is trending on social media this month? Drop your take in the comments because this argument is far from settled. Zoom out for a second, because the real story here was never just about 5 cars. It is about mispricing, tariffs, discontinued nameplates, recall headlines, and a public that judges electric vehicles more on reputation than on actual engineering. All of that combined to create a strange pocket of the market where genuinely capable machines machines are sitting on lots, quietly losing value, waiting for someone to notice. Depreciation punished these vehicles for reasons that often have nothing to do with what they can actually deliver on the road. The smartest EV purchase in America right now might not be the one everyone is talking about. It might be the one sitting forgotten at the edge of the lot, priced like a mistake, driving like anything but. So the next time you see a for sale sign on a car nobody seems to want, it might be worth a second look, because the market is not always right. Sometimes it is just distracted. And if you want to make sure you are never the one caught off guard by what is coming next in this industry, come along for the ride. Join us here at Driven to Distraction.